For CCT, we're going to take Droidica as player 1 and Ghost Yoda as player 2. Always have 2 players at the start of this level, just due to the character management at the end of Bespin. And then for the start of this first room, you have a couple of options here. You're of course going to drop out your player 2. And then deciding how you get around this X-Wing is really up to you. You can do a single jump swap and then just make it over and keep rolling. Or you can swap to Ghost Yoda and do some slashes through the X-Wing. It really is up to you. I personally do the slashes just because that will give me consistent movement versus if I do the jump and then swap, I'm kind of hitting the edge of the X-Wing and losing a little bit of my momentum there. So I would prefer doing the slash method. And then as we approach this gap, we need to pay attention to our character roster wheel. In this case, we got Leia instead of getting Boba Fett, who would allow us to just make the fly that goes directly across. So when we get Leia, we can slash through the X-Wing, and then we need to remember to just force this, and then we can just do a triple jump to get across. But we'll take a look at what it looks like when you get Boba Fett instead. So now with Boba Fett in our party, we can come over here and utilize Droidica being able to easily roll on this ledge and then swap our characters 3 to the right in order to get to Boba Fett. You want to make sure that you don't wait too long with rolling as Droidica, otherwise you're just going to fall off the ledge. And then you're going to start your fly. It's not like a super tight fly, but it's also not completely free, so you got to pay attention to it. And then when you get here, we're going to triple jump over to this ledge. You can make that in a double jump, but it's tight and there's really no reason to risk it. And then we're going to immediately go into another triple jump over here to the right to just enter the window because of a lack of collision. So if you'll see here, there's collision on the window if I'm trying to hold forward. But then if I go a little bit further right, then I end up just clipping directly into the room. Now, really, you don't have to try and be really tight with your spacing. You can just go pretty far out just to ensure that you're going to be able to make it through the collision. And then we're going to Super Ewok catapult this barrier and use the panel. And an interesting fact about this door transition is that if you are far enough on the edge, you just don't hit the transition at all. You can just walk right past it. That's totally fine to do. Of course, your other option, as always, is to Yoda slash through the transition. It's also possible that you go for a Yoda slash and you just slash but don't hit the transition. Any of those are totally fine. And then as we get into this room, there's a trick that you can go for that saves a little bit of time from avoiding the camera pan skip, but it's also not the easiest thing to do just because it's a bit of awkward movement. But if you come down on this staircase, if we go just a little bit further down, we would activate the camera pan where Darth Vader would show up. We can do a super delayed triple jump and just make it over to the platform without ever activating that camera pan. So we have to take a pretty high up angle and then really delay the triple jump to land further over here. So then the other option as you're coming into this room is just to accept your fate and jump into the transition to let this camera pan play. And then you can do a double jump swap and use the panel. And then we're going to be slashing as we go into this next room, and we'll triple jump up to this area. And just because Wicket is a little bit further away, when we triple jump, we're just going to immediately go to Wicket to use Super Ewok Catapult in order to do this clip here. And this clip is a little funky, but with enough time, you get used to it. You're going to be facing, not in the corner, but a little bit away from the corner directly into the wall. And then all you're going to do is slash and then swap to Droidica, and that will push you out of bounds. And then we're going to do a triple jump with Yoda out of bounds in order to completely skip the DV2 section. But if we're too far back in the out of bounds like we are right now and I go to swap to Yoda, I end up warping to some collision super high up. So it's a little bit of a balancing act when we're going out of bounds there to make sure that we go far enough in before swapping back to Yoda, but also don't roll too far where we just fall off of the edge. And with enough practice, it can happen very quickly, and it will look something like this. Now, you might have noticed there that you heard me pull my lightsaber out while I was out of bounds. That happens sometimes, and it's really difficult to tell if you need to do that or not. I would always opt on the side of just making sure that it's pulled out. Worst case scenario, you slam into the void, but you should respawn out of bounds, which makes it a lot easier to just try the trick again. And then entering DV3, we're just going to swap to Ghost Yoda, and then jump up this platform, and triple jump over. Now, if I were to immediately enter the transition into the final room, there is a small chance that Vader has iframes, and I can no longer end the level. So I'm going to delay myself just a tiny bit before entering this transition. So just by walking around a little bit, I'll enter, and I will feel perfectly fine about the timing to make sure that I don't soft lock. And then the first thing that we're going to do is turn around and swap to our other character. That will make our player 2 Ghost Yoda, and then he'll just stay as that for the rest of the level for character management going into the next level. And then we're going to do animation cancel slashing with Darth Vader. Yoda's animation for slashes are just way too big, so it's actually like pretty difficult to get a target on Vader. So we're going to swap to R2, and then we're just going to be Darth Vader and do animation canceling, which you'll just find a rhythm for. And then, even though I just mentioned how Yoda's slash is super huge, because we're super far away here, we can do one Yoda slash for these last few hits. So kind of just before this light that's on the side of the bridge, I'm going to do a Yoda slash, and it's going to take me all the way to Vader, and then I'll just finish him off normally. And that's it for CCT. We are just going to do Cantina movement with our player 1, who will always be Vader as we enter Dagobah. And then we'll just switch to Droideka, and we will be all good to go.